Raw time.
Alex Jones, please. Alex Jones. Alex Jones. Alex.
Starting off in D tier is Kawo Rei. While their duo effect, boosting their HP and defense, is great, Karu still tends to stick in the lower tiers, being a character who mostly buffs others, and Rei without a frontliner to support doesn't truly work due to her low damage output even while zoning. While it can work, it rarely does, unless Rei is solely being fed attack boosts by her Karu. They are good for pure survival, both with higher defense and their HPs. This pair can be really good ultra-resistant cockroach style characters, especially if you play Rei with her Mark 9 variant with its boost to both attack and defense. However, they rarely win due to their low attack capabilities. While surviving late is great, it doesn't matter if you can't get the final kill. Other pairs just outdo them, even if they can technically survive longer than believed.
Alex Jones, Alex Jones, Alex Jones, Alex Jones, Alex Jones.
In C tier is Mari Shin. Mari Shin is a pairing of two solo characters essentially. Makinami works best with a character with a strong niche like Asuka. Even without the pairing bonuses, she still works better with Karu and Rei than Shinji because she just works best when adapting to her duo's playstyle. Makinami and Shinji work far better with the HP buff of playing solo rather than being both subpar together. While they are fine, putting two all-rounders together means that they're rather simple. Though they don't have any obvious weaknesses, they also don't have any obvious strengths, meaning more specialist characters can make easy work of them. While the 2% decrease on Shinji's decision fatigue mechanic is well needed, some duos like Rei or Karu decrease it by 5%, even with debuffs in other cases. Not to mention, Shinji, even if going full rushdown with his Mark 13 variant, doesn't truly benefit from Mari's ability of raising critical hits to enemy weak points. There are just better pairings for both characters, and even then, playing them solo works just as well with this pairing. While they aren't terrible, no other pair can be said to play better separately than together, even with the set character bonus.
Alex Jones, Alex Jones, Alex Jones, Alex Jones, Alex.
Rei Shin is the game's suggested beginner pairing, and that's for a good reason. Rei buffs both Shinji's attack and intelligence, which is good considering you only unlock higher intelligence characters like Karu later in the game, or for paying for the rebuild expansion pass for Mari. It also reduces his decision fatigue mechanic by 5, meaning Shinji becomes a more reliable DPS. Rei typically acts as a zoner or support, but she gains more frontline viability with Shinji's boost to her attack when he's low on health. While a lot of this group's ability does get messed up with Rei's respawn ability, which neutralizes most of the group's benefits that are given aside from Rei's attack boost strangely enough. This is boosted if you use Shinji's Unit 13 variant. Shinji is more attached, meaning that the stat boosts are raised, but similar to Kawo Shin, Shinji gains the depression debuff only if you use the Unit 13 variant and Rei respawns. Despite this, the Rei Shin pairing is a solid pick all around, especially if you and your partner have experience playing both solo. However, Rei Shin is one of the duos that just don't work if you use Mark 9 Rei, which negates all pre-resurrection duo effects. Shinji doesn't start with a depression debuff even with his Unit 13 variant. However, he also doesn't start with the buffs to his attack and intelligence. I know Kawo Shin being B tier is shocking considering how this community views Karu as a bottom tier pick. However, I would say despite them being incredibly situational, they still do work better than something like Kawo Rei or Mari Shin. Just like Rei, Karu reduces Shinji's decision fatigue mechanic by 5, as well as raising his attack. Even without access to Rei's zoning tools, Karu still works as a dedicated support for Shinji players, or a flanking assassin character. Not to mention, if you play Shinji's Unit 13 variant together from the Rebuild expansion, then Karu can access the game's most busted character, Messiah Mode Unit 13. However, this comes with the extreme technicality that the startup is so ridiculously long that most Reis or Maris can snipe Unit 13 out of the sky. Not to mention that Karu is especially weak to critical hits, and once Karu dies, Shinji is hit with the depression debuff and becomes worse than useless due to his decision. Asuka Rei is a pairing that shouldn't work as well as it does. Asuka is always glad to have a support, but Rei lowers her intelligence, stealth, and defense stats while heavily boosting her attack. However, this con turns into a pro considering that Asuka's playstyle loves the extra damage. Asuka, as she is normally, is already weak defensively, so this is essentially the most min-maxed version of this character. With a defense as low as Karu, she is the glassiest of glass cannons, but her strategy of attacking head-on is only strengthened with Rei as a pairing, especially with Rei's respawn ability, which tends to amplify both boosts and nerf each respawn. This is amplified if you play the Shikanami variant over Soryu. If you're an Asuka player who likes overwhelming the enemy and decimating them before they can hit you, then pairing with Rei is great. If you like something more balanced, then this is your worst nightmare. Asu Shinji is a really good pairing, especially if you don't have the rebuild expansion pack. Lots of experts will dismiss Asu Shin for the next pair, but as an Asuka main, a Shinji pairing is one of the best partners you can ask for. Shinji and Asuka both massively buff each other's attack stats without the nerfs like Asu-Rei or the low viability of Karo Shin. However, there is an issue that quickly presents itself. Both Shinji and Asuka favor rushdown techniques. While Shinji is an all-rounder, he tends to be more of a rushdown than a zoner due to his decision fatigue mechanic, meaning you have to go to the front lines. In many cases, that means that these two are weak to Karu players or anyone with really high stealth. Not to mention, if both Shinji and Asuka aren't in sync, their synergy dies quickly. For a lot of people, they do like this, and Asu Shin players have a really strong track record at tournaments. However, many people would rather leave behind the stat boosts for consistent support. Not to mention, this pairing becomes a glass cannon powerhouse if you have the rebuild expansion pack. With access to Shinji's Unit 13 variant and its 4 arms, and Asuka's Shikinami variant boosting duo effects, in the hands of competent players, Asu Shins can dominate their tournaments. They were very good in base roster and only seem to get better with time. Asumari is a supreme pairing for both Asuka and Mari. Asuka as a rushdown typically works well enough with the solo buffs. However, her synergy with Mari makes this one of the most viable pairings in the meta. While Makinami's group buffs aren't as intense as Shinji's or Rei's, both their playstyles work perfectly together, especially since both Shinji and Rei decrease Asuka's intelligence. Asuka works great alone. However, with Makinami, she can take the Asu Shin playstyle of both ravaging the enemy without much energy, or the Asu-Rei or Shin-Rei playstyle with Makinami working as a zoning character. Makinami provides Asuka backline support, while Asuka provides Makinami with better offense. Not to mention, Makinami is the only zoner in the game that can activate Asuka's jealousy mechanic, which raises her attack. Almost annoying how good this pair is, since most people just pick these two, and most beginners just main one of the two already. It's gotten rather predictable online. However, even with this pair is still deadly. The main con is that most people only pick the Shikinami variant for this pairing for the additional buff to the duo's effect, even though the Soryu variant has a lot more specific tech from being base roster. However, even with that, both are so insanely good it hardly matters. This pair is hyper adaptable. Its infamy is for good reason. You could play a supporting Makinami and assaulting Asuka, or an assaulting duo like Asu Shin. You could also play more strategically due to the group buffs. Any playstyle works, and that's what makes Asumari an S tier pick.